welcome back to Historical Belle's channel. I am Marie of Historical Belle, and today I am going to be talking about some of my favorite historical costuming patterns and where I find them, where I get them, how I use them, and all of those really interesting things that people have been asking me for ages. And I thought, what perfect timing is to do a video for this for COVID. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to be talking about some of my favorites. This is by no means an exclusive list, but it's just some of my favorites. I feel like I'm probably going to end up doing a part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of this where I talk about different patterns, but I don't think you want to watch a 5-hour long video of me talking about patterns. So we're going to break it up. So this is just the first section. So I'm going to start off with perhaps more mainstream patterns that you might have heard of. Sometimes they're referred to as like the big three, which are like Butterick, McCall's, and Vogue. And those are all patterns that you can find at Joann's or the Sewing Center at Walmart. So I'm going to start with some of my favorites of those, and one of those would be the Simplicity pattern. This is Simplicity 8161, and it is done in conjunction with American Duchess, who is an amazing historical costuming brand. If you haven't heard of them, go look at their website. You'll have a great time looking around. So this is one that they did based off of Outlander. So this kind of 18th century Outlander look, very much from season 1 of Outlander. It has like that Claire look. I made this, I kind of did it with inspiration from Claire, but also kind of made it my own just a little bit, because I wanted it to work for my historical reenacting purposes and not just cosplay, but I also wanted it to be able to pass for cosplay. So of course, and I like to put my own spin on some things too, but I really like this pattern. I can't speak that well to instructions in patterns because I don't read them. I just get the pattern pieces and then I put them together how I see fit, which seems to work out really pretty well. Sometimes I do read instructions, but that was mainly if it's a pattern book where you kind of have to read the instructions. American Duchess also has a wonderful historical costuming book, but I'm going to say, talking about that for when I do this is my favorite costuming book collections. So that'll come out at some point. But yes, I really liked this one. I thought it was pretty easy to do. And I would recommend it. I really liked the final product that I got from it. I'm going to be showing, here are some pictures of the final product of me wearing it. Another one of my favorite patterns is another Simplicity pattern with American Duchess. It is Simplicity pattern 8578, and it is for this beautiful robe a la Francaise. If you've been following along on this channel, I used this pattern along with their 18th century dressmaking book to make my robe a la Francaise that I wore to the Outlander ball, and it was one of the best nights of this year by far. It was a fantastic, fantastic night, and if you are interested in going, I vlogged the event. It was super fun. If you want to see the making of the dress, you can go and see all of that on my channel. So if you really want to see this pattern in action, of how I used it, what the final product looked like, of course there's going to be, I have some pictures here that I'm showing, but also go check that out. It's a great pattern. I really liked it. I liked using it with the book a lot too. I'm not always the most comfortable in drafting patterns out of a book, and sometimes I like to have the paper pattern because it makes me feel better. So I liked having both a lot because I felt like the book gave a whole lot of wonderful historical detail that perhaps was not included in the pattern booklet that you get in here, just because you can include so much more in a book than paper pamphlet. And also people might not be interested who buy this, you know, thinking it's a pretty design because it's a beautiful design, but they might not be historical costumers like people who get the book art or anything like that. So yes, I really liked this one. It was technically my second attempt at a robe a la Francaise. The first one went terribly and didn't even end up having the sack back, which kind of makes it a robe a la Francaise. So I was nervous going into it. I was very nervous about the whole sack back situation, and this pattern and the book made it to where I felt very confident in doing that. So highly recommend, one of my favorite patterns. It made a beautiful dress. Okay, so the last two patterns I followed very closely, very closely, and I got the product that you would expect from it, which is what the sketch on the back and the picture on the front look like. This next pattern I deviated a bit from, and that is this Butterick pattern, which is Butterick 4918. And it is one of their retro patterns, so it's this like 1952 ball gown, super fun. I really like the retro patterns from Butterick. I think they're really fun. And I made my formal dress for my sorority's formal last year. This one holds a special place in my heart because this was my first ever sewing vlog that I ever made on this channel, which is just kind of kicked all of this off and has led me to where I am today. So again, if you want to see this pattern in action, you can go and see the video. You can also see where I deviated from it, which is kind of this swooshy neckline part thing that I did not go with. I kept it much more refined and didn't have all the little floofy parts. And then the swooshy sash part, I connected that differently and made it much longer. All of which you can see in the video. But I really like this pattern. I love 1950s style stuff. I think it looks so classy and elegant, and it works really well with my body type, and therefore I love 1950s stuff. We will probably be seeing more 1950s stuff, and I really like this pattern. Now this next pattern I also followed very closely with very little deviation, and that is this beautiful 19th century bathing costume, which looks very familiar, I'm sure, because I am wearing that one that I made. I have always been wanting to make a 19th century bathing costume, but I couldn't really find a good pattern until I came across this folkwear one. And so this is a folkwear pattern, which is a pattern company. You can find them on Instagram. I'll link them below, and all that good stuff. I really liked it. I came across them on Instagram. But this is their vintage bathing costume pattern. Really liked it. I thought it was really easy to follow along. It was, the pattern pieces, the fit was really true. And it's super comfortable. I'm wearing it now because it's summer and I have not gotten to go to the beach, so we're going to wear it in my living room to make a video. Or we can pretend like we're at costume college at the pool party. That's where I am pretending I am at the moment. Never been, but I would love to go. And this is what I would wear. This is another sewing vlog that you can go see, and you can see the pattern in action and how I used it and all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in seeing the pattern in action, I'm going to link everything that I mentioned down below in this description box. So go ahead and look down there. I'll link to where you can get the patterns, the pattern companies, as well as the sewing vlog, if there is one, because some of them I don't have sewing vlogs for. But this one I do. So this is folkwear patterns. They have a lot of not like super old historical things, it's more like vintagey things, and kind of, it's called folkwear, so they also have more like folk costumes and historic folkwear, which is really cool to go look at, and I really like. So this was a really fun project. I absolutely love the outcome. The photos from the beach were amazing. I had so much fun trying to swim in this dress. There's a whole video about that too. I can't wait to wear this to the beach again because it was so much fun. So much fun. So this next pattern is one of the first historical patterns that I've ever really got that I felt was like a really true, fantastic, accurate historical pattern, especially for the 1860s. So This is the Past Patterns and by Sandra Altman. And this is the 1858 to 1862 pleated or gauged skirts. And most of the time nowadays I kind of just drop my own skirt patterns, but when I was starting out it was really helpful to have a skirt pattern, especially when you're trying to do like a hoop skirt or a caged crinoline and something that's really big and you aren't exactly sure how much fabric is going to go over that. Because trust me, I've made the mistake of trying to make a hoop skirt and it's too small to fit over your hoop, and then it just looks like a hot, fluffy, floofy, twisted mess, and that's not what you want to do. So if you're starting out and you don't feel comfortable, drafting your own skirt patterns, especially for something like that, highly recommend getting skirt patterns. Highly, highly recommend. So this one, it has the pleated or the gauge skirts, so basically that's the like pleated or gathered would be kind of the translation of that. I thought this was really good. I used it for so many of my early costumes, and now basically I think I just kind of memorized the pattern to the point where like this is how I make patterns, is based off this pattern here is how I make skirts. I just don't always lay out the pattern because I kind of memorized it because I used it so much for basically all of my early 1860s dresses. So I recommend this a lot. Past Patterns is a great company that I've used a lot of their patterns from, and I really like all their patterns. I feel like they're super authentic. This one is made from originals in the collections of the Human and Environmental Department at Michigan State University. So they do their research and then they give you like a whole packet that goes with it with very detailed instructions. It's very detailed. I would not like recommend it for like super beginner sewers, but if you're like intermediate, I'm gonna have to put that back in order. Intermediate to advanced sewers, I would recommend this for. Because I started out trying to do one of these and it can get a little frustrating. If you're just starting out in historical costuming, I feel like it's just a lot of information that they hand you in a packet that you then have to decipher, and that could be a little overwhelming. So just keep that in mind. It's a bunch of fantastic information. I think it's great if you're wanting to get something that's like super authentic. Like I said, it's based off of originals from a university's collection. So it's really good. Just keep in mind, if you're just starting out, it might be perhaps a tad overwhelming, because it was for me. Okay, so another Past Pattern design. This is Past Patterns 1858 to 1862 darted bodice and undersleeves. Now this is one of my first patterns for any 1860s dresses that I made, and I don't like the darted bodice of this pattern that much, and I'll get to one that I like better in a minute. It's still good. It's still fantastic if you're trying to do a historic, like historic clothing, or historic dress from the mid-Victorian era. It's a good pattern. I just didn't like the fit as well on me as I have found another one that I like better. But I love the undersleeves, and I love these pagoda sleeves. These pagoda sleeves are like my favorite sleeves ever. So I use the sleeve part of this pattern all the time. And it's on one of my favorite 1860s dresses I made when I Frankensteined a big pattern together, as I used this pagoda sleeve as my sleeve for that. And I really, really liked those pagoda sleeves. I like them a whole lot. So I would recommend this pattern for the pagoda sleeve, because I use that so much. Also the undersleeve is good too. I like the undersleeve pattern of this portion. But this one's a really good pattern. It's made from originals in the collections of the Human Environment Department at Michigan State University. Again, it's a past pattern, so they have a whole wonderful booklet of information that you get when you get the pattern. I really like this one too, because they give you it feels like it's a larger pattern range that they give you on past patterns than you might get with Butterick or Simplicity, or one of those big 3 ones. So I really like that about past patterns, and it's like the fit is true, and I haven't had problems with it. I made it one size and then it said it would fit me and then it didn't. I had no problems like that with this at all. So I really like past patterns. As you can tell, this is the second past pattern that I've talked about in this video. Yeah, so this darted bodice and undersleeve pattern, I love the pagoda sleeve part of it. So we have another past patterns! This time it is the 1862 to 1865 Garibaldi shirt. Now, Garibaldi shirts were super popular. I don't have a sewing vlog of this, but I do have a video about Garibaldi shirts that I'm going to link below, and you can see the shirts that I made with this pattern. I also love this pattern because of the sleeves. I love these big bishop sleeves, and I used that pattern piece for the sleeves on a bunch of different dresses. It's one of my favorite things to Frankenstein patterns with. I liked the shirt bodice because it's just kind of like this nice big airy shirt, so that's also fun to use with different things, and it can have a waistband or not. Again, it gives a bunch of really great information, and I think if you're doing these shirts were super popular with young ladies in the 1860s, so if you're looking for something that is a good staple item, a good starter item, I think a Garibaldi shirt is a great way to go in creating your mid-Victorian wardrobe. I also think that it can translate to history bounding really well if that's something you're interested in doing. And history bounding is something that basically you take historical pieces and you wear them in your modern day life. And some people like to wear full-on historical accurate dresses and suits in their everyday life, but then some people like to kind of mix it up and they throw in like a historical piece here or there, and that's kind of like history bounding. It's like the idea of historical dress, but not like the I stepped out of the historical painting look type thing. So I would recommend it for that as well, because it's just a really nice blouse. Now this next pattern, I honestly don't remember where I got it. I think it might have been at a sutler at an event, or it could have been from a random dry goods store, or a random internet store that I just came across. So I think you can get it at a variety of places, and I don't remember exactly where. But it is the Robe a l'Anglaise, and oh, this is all in French, and Foro as round gown, or robe a l'Anglaise, a la Polonaise as open robe with petticoat to be worn over side hoops plus additional sleeve flounces. That is the official name of this pattern. And I think it's like a J.P. Ryan pattern, because it says copyright by J.P. Ryan. So if you Google that, you should, along with that really long name that I just said, you should be able to find it. I'm going to see if I can find it while Googling. We'll see. If I do, it'll be linked. If I don't, it won't. But I really like this pattern. It's been used, I used it at least twice to make two different kind of 18th century style gowns that I really love. One of those is my, I call it my Italian gown, or because that's what it looks like from the ones that I use this pattern along with the 18th century American Duchess guidebook, which is fantastic. If you can't tell, I've used it for multiple projects. That it just really helped me get that historical look, as well as having the pattern pieces and having that wonderful instruction as well. So I really like this pattern. I also made it to where I had I call it my robe a la Polonaise, but it's like robe a l'Anglaise worn a la Polonaise, because it's pulled up in the front, but it has seams in the back, so it's not a true Polonaise. So that's a whole ordeal there. But that I think someone has done a video on, because it's a whole thing about what's a polonaise and what isn't. And anyway, when you pull up the skirt in the back, it looks really pretty. And I wanted to do that, and I used this pattern to help make that skirt as well. So really love this pattern. It's basically like my first true like jump into 18th century dressmaking I did with this pattern. I've then done more since then, but this was my first one. I really like this pattern. I've talked to other people who use this pattern and they also really like it. So I think it's a really good pattern all the way around, and also would highly recommend. Okay, so this is probably my most used favorite pattern of all time, and that is the truly Victorian 1860s darted bodice. So I know I said I didn't like the past patterns darted bodices. Well, I like this one better because I think it fits better, it's tighter, and I like my bodices to be very tight and very tight fitting. And the other one had a little bit more room up top, and I did not like that. I like a closer fitting bodice. So if you like a closer fitting bodice, you're probably going to, like me, you'll like this pattern better. If you like a more, like, you know, it still has a fit, but it's just not like really fitted. If you like a little bit more room to your fit, you'll like the past patterns better. That's pure personal preference at that point, because they're both wonderful, historically accurate, give you that nice 1860s mid-Victorian silhouette look. They're both good on that level. It's just how tight you like it. Me, I like it very tight. Trying to think about how many dresses I've actually used this pattern on. My mom is saying 10 in the back. She's my camera lady for this, and she thinks that I have used it for 10 dresses, and that might actually be accurate. Right now I'm thinking about 2. Because I did a couple with the other one first, and then I found this one. But it's a lot. But this is my favorite. I don't like the sleeves of this pattern that much. I like the pagoda sleeves. So my ultimate favorite 1860s look is this bodice pattern with those pagoda sleeves from the past patterns. And that's like my favorite look for 1860s, mid-1800s. Because it's so pretty, because the pagoda sleeves are like the big flowy sleeves that are on the dress. Because I know I've been saying that word a lot, and some people might not know what it means. Because 1860s, it was about, you had the shoulder seams off the actual shoulder, making it really wide across here. You had a tiny waist that was very fitted, or you had a belt or something around your waist to make it look fitted and very defined. And then you had a giant hoop skirt or crinoline, or cage crinoline, that of course completes the other half of that hourglass very easily. And then you have these sleeves, and they're almost always like these big sleeves. Sometimes, and you know, depending on like what year in that decade you're looking at, sometimes they get very close fitting. That's probably had to do more with we're running out of fabric because there's a war. If you're in America during the 1860s, of course you have the American Civil War, and you know, fabric gets very scarce because war effort, which, you know, happens in every war. You have rationing. So the sleeves come and go. But what I really like about the pagoda sleeves is that they're big and flowy, and who doesn't love big flowy sleeves? But also because large sleeves make your waist look even tinier. So you have all of these things working as optical illusions to make your waist look super, super tiny. Were their waist actually that tiny? Well, some yes, some no. They're probably, you know, sometimes we think of them as being like a little bit smaller than we are today, and that probably has to do with some environmental factors and such. But for the most part, they weren't, you know, these super tiny humans who were removing ribs and tight lacing their corsets to where their waist was like 3 inches around. That's, if you want corset busting myths, go watch Bernadette Vanner's video on it. It's probably one of the best videos about corsets that you will ever watch, because she has all of the facts and all of the research, and it's fantastic. So when you think about them having tiny waists, they're also using all these optical illusions to make their waist look tiny. It's not just because they had these super tiny, tight-laced waists. That's not how. That's just not how it was. You have all of these optical illusions working to make it look tiny, which honestly we should bring back, because let's use optical illusions to make us look how we want to look. I really like that. So that was my all-time favorite pattern that I've used in so many dresses, and not just dresses for me, dresses for other people too. I recommend that one a lot to people, like when I'm making them dresses, because it's my favorite. It's my favorite one to work with, and I've used it so many times. I feel like I can almost like do it blindfolded. Alright, thank you so much for listening to me talk about my favorite patterns. Of course, this is one of my favorite topics in the world is historical costuming and historical fashion, and how all of that works and goes together, and how I make all of my dresses. And it literally, I'm going to get emotional for a moment. It means the world to me that people want to watch it, because I never felt like people wanted to, like, I want to cry. Like in high school, I never thought people wanted to like listen to me talk about it, and now I have a whole wonderful internet community that does. So I really appreciate it, because there's 5,000 of you now. And I think that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you for coming and wanting to hear what I have to talk about, and seeing what I have to do. Literally means the world to me. So if you like this video, I'm probably going to do more of them where I talk about my favorite patterns, because I have a basement full of them. I have drawers full of them, and so like, comment, subscribe, tell me about your favorite pattern, because I know there's so many wonderful patterns out there for historical costuming, or just costuming in general. So if you have a favorite that I didn't mention, or you have a favorite pattern company, go ahead and put it down in the comments so it can be a resource to everyone else, so that we can get all this information out there, because sometimes it feels really hard to find all of these things, because they're very niche, and sometimes it feels like they're hidden on the internet. So let's make a wonderful resource down in the comments section, and yes, tell me about your favorite pattern. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Happy COVID. It's been amazing. I have the COVID schedule listed, linked down in the bottom of the description box. We still have, I think we still have like a day and a half of COVID. So go ahead and see what videos are on there, and check out some really amazing creators. And again, thank you so much for watching.